Hello dear students, I am Dr. S.Y.B.Sc, Associate Professor, Department of Geography. Dear student, I welcome all of you in this online video lecture series on behalf of Maratha Vidya Prasar Samajas, Character Arts, BH Commerce and AM Science, popularly known as KTHM College Nasik. Dear student, this is our S.Y.B.Sc Geography class, Semester 4, and we have a paper for today's discussion, that is Environmental Geography Part 2. And the code of our subject is GG-241. Today we are going to discuss our first topic, Environmental Impact Assessment, and its subtopic, that is Nature and Scope of Environment Impact Assessment. Dear student, in previous lecture we have discussed detailed information about meaning and definition of Environment Impact Assessment. Dear student, for today's lecture, we have a study objective and learning objective that is very simple to discuss the nature and scope of environment impact assessment. Dear student, you know that environment impact assessment is a process through which an environment impact of any proposed development is evaluated. Means what? The human being carried out the various development projects related to its needs. It may be the thermal power station, it may be the any dam, any bridge, or any big industry. So that time it is very important there should not be any side effect, negative effect on the environment. For that process, this we carried out the environment impact assessment process. So that is very important. The environmental engineering is a very popular discipline of engineering that deal with the issue related to the environment. Dear student, so you know that the environmental engineering is a sub-branch of the engineering, and in this sub-branch of the engineering, the detailed study about the environment impact assessment is done. So therefore, this branch of the engineering is very important. If you want to study detailed information of environment impact assessment, with this respect, in this regard, the study of environmental engineering is very important and very useful for us. The main goal of environment impact assessment is to conserve the environment and bring out the best combination of economic and environmental cost and benefit. So dear students, this is very important. You know that we want to carry out our various development projects, but simultaneously we also take care about the environment, because environmental balance is very important for survival of the human being and also the ecosystem of the earth surface. So therefore it is very important if through this process we can keep the balance between development and the environmental balance. Dear student, so while undertaking the environmental impact assessment, the interrelated socio-economic, culture, and human health impact are very important that we have to consider during the evaluation of this process. Because it is true that the development activity is very important. For economic development, we have to carry out the various development projects, but simultaneously we also take care about the socio-economic condition of the society, cultural condition of the society, and last but not the least, human health is also very important. So when we carried out this process, that time we have to keep in your mind that during the evaluation of this project, we also take care about this thing. And I repeat again that economic development or the development project and environmental equilibrium or environmental balance is very important. We have to keep the balance between both process. On the other hand, the socio-economic condition, cultural condition, and human health are also very important. That we also take care during we have to take care about this condition during the evaluation of this process. Dear student, let us discuss the nature of environmental impact assessment. Dear student, you know that the environment impact assessment is a term as one of the best policy innovation in the 19th century. So dear student, we know that the 19th century is very important with respect to the human development, because in this century the human being discover a lot of new things. But in this various things, one very important innovation, that is the environment impact assessment, because during last hundreds years we are using this process continuous, and there is a lot of improvement in this process, and we try to bring up the very accuracy in this evaluation. So therefore this is very important. Dear student, you know that the environment impact assessment is a tool used to assess the positive and the negative environmental, economic and social impact of the project. Dear student, is very important, because when we are going to start a new project, that time the only development is very not important, but simultaneously there should not be any negative impact on the environment, economy and the social life of the human being that living in near that project. So therefore this process is very important to take the decision whether that project we have to continue or not. So in this regard, this process is very important. So in this process we try to analyze the what are the positive and what are the negative impact that we are going to observe of that particular project with respect to the environment, economic and the social impact of the project. So that is very important. Let us see the nature of environmental impact with impact assessment with help of the few points. The first point is, it is an important decision making. It providing information on the environmental consequences for the decision making. So dear student, this is a very important. Even I during last lecture also I have also explained you that it is a very important decision making tool, because with help of this process we can able to finalize our decision whether that new project or that new whatever that work we have to continue for the future or not. When we carried out the this environmental impact assessment, that time, so last decision our depend on the our evaluation. If that evaluation is if there we observe the lot of side effect, negative effect on that environment and even the ecosystem on the human being, then definitely to continue this project is not useful. So in that respect, on the basis of environmental impact assessment, we can able to finalize our decision whether that project we should continue or not. So in this respect, this is a very important tool for the decision maker, for the planner, for government, for social worker, for researcher, for various that agencies or maybe the factor that are in the decision making things or in the decision making process. So for them, this is a very important tools. Second important thing is, environmental impact assessment is a part of the wider approach to environmental protection. Yes, this is very important. When we are talking about the environmental protection, the environmental conservation, so that purpose in this process, the basic information we can able to collect through the environmental impact assessment process, and therefore it is known as a very wider approach to environmental protection. Third is a very important point related to the nature of environment impact assessment, that is, it is not just a procedure but it is science. Yes student, this is a very important. So it is a science, because when you carried out this process with respect to the any project or maybe the any development work, that time, so when we continue from the beginning up to the end, up to the our finalized report, in this process we carried out this process step by step like a science. So in science, you know that the accuracy is very important. Then on the basis of evidence we can conclude or the various statement about the science project or maybe the any rules or maybe the law model or maybe the very cycle about the nature. We can give the detailed information on the basis of the scientific study. So when we carried out this work, environmental impact assessment, in that like a science, the methods or the rules or the Same thing we follow during this process. Therefore, it is a not only process, but it is a science. So like a scientific study, scientific survey, scientific analysis, all these things we apply in the environmental impact assessment. Therefore, it's not just a procedure, but it's a science, like a pure science. So therefore, and I just mentioned that it's a very important branches of the environmental engineering, or you can say the engineering fields, or the branches. So therefore, it is a very important. It is also known as a pure science, because each and every steps methods we follow during the environment impact assessment. Next important point is environment impact assessment is the art or the procedure for decision making. I just mentioned that in the first point. I already mentioned it. It has to do with those mechanisms for the ensuring and environmental analysis of such action and influencing the decision making process. There, yes, student, this is very important, because when we take the decision, that time our decision is totally depend on the report of environmental impact assessment. So until we read that report properly, we get the information detail about that report, about that environmental assessment, environmental impact assessment process, then we can able to finalize our decision. Therefore, this is a very important for us if we want to take a final decision regarding any developmental project or any economic development project. That time, this environmental impact assessment process is very important for us. Dear student, the next important point that the nature of environmental impact assessment is very dynamic. This is a very important statement about the nature of environmental impact assessment, because see student, when the human being and the relation between the human being and the environment is continuously changed time to time with respect to the technological innovation or the science and technological development. So impact of the nature, impact of the human being through the development process, development project is always changed time to time. I just mentioned as per what type of the technology he going to use for the project. So when the use of technology is change in any development project, that time the impact of that development project is also changed with respect to the environment. So that time, so I just mentioned time to time, this relationship between the development project and its impact on the environment is going to change. Therefore, in this process, we use the various update method, very accurate update method that can useful to give us a very important and the scientific and the accurate information about the impact of the human development project, or maybe you can say the development project on the environment. So for that purpose, we use the various techniques, even the use of remote sensing data, use of the computer, various software, they are using us, which was not used in the early period of the the environmental impact process. I am talking about the late of the 19th century or in the beginning of the 20th century. So during that time, whatever the method they was used, that totally changed. Now each and every method we use the software, we use the various data, we use the computer, remote sensing data, and so many things. So therefore, the nature of this environmental impact assessment is changed time to time. Therefore, it is known as a dynamic process. Next important thing is that the environmental impact assessment is a systematic and the interrogative process. So see student, so I just mentioned that when we carried out this process, environmental impact process, there is a steps. We follow this process step by step. So when we complete the first steps, then we move toward the second steps, third steps, and fourth, and up to the final. So there is a systematic process, and therefore it is known as a very systematic process. And another thing is that the interrogative. Interrogative means what? When we carried out this process, at that time we conduct the very comprehensive methods, and that time we always keep the various we consider the all various part of the environment at a one, or like an ecosystem. We take care about all the biotic and abiotic factor. So when we analyze the environmental impact assessment, during that process we take this view during the study. Therefore this process is known as, this technique is known as the, or this process is known as the very systematic and the interrogative process. The next one, that the very important, dear student, the political nature of the decision making context of the environmental impact assessment is inseparable, that cannot be avoided. So for example, so I'm just talking about the, I would like to share the example from the India. So in India, the decision regarding the nuclear power plant or the metro project in the Mumbai or the Sardar Sarovar project of the Gujarat, that we constructed for the various the purpose. So think in this, in three example, you definitely, if you read the detailed information about the nuclear power plant that we are going to establish in the Maharashtra, or maybe the metro railway, that project is on in the Mumbai, and the Sardar Sarovar project of the Gujarat. So you will observe that, so when the environmental impact assessment process was carried out, that time there was some the political interfere. The various political parties of the India was involved to finalize the decision about the process. So therefore, this is also very important point regarding the nature of environmental impact assessment, that there is always the interference of the political leader, or maybe the political parties are involved in the decision making process. So this is also very important things about the nature of environmental assessment, impact assessment. And last one, that the environmental impact assessment create a link between environmental protection and the development, so that the both can be carried out a hand to hand and together achieve the goal of sustainable development. That is very important. Dear student, if you want to do the sustainable development, so that time the both process, we have to continue our development project, but simultaneously we also take care about the environmental balance and the future generation. So this all process, we always, when we carried out the environmental impact process assessment, in that process we always keep in our mind that we have to take care about the next generation, or we will be in India or maybe in the any part of the world, and also we take care about the environmental balance. So when we think about the the needs of the next generation and the environmental balance during the process of environmental impact assessment, then yes, so therefore this process is a very important link between the environment protection and the development project that we carried out the various part of the world. Dear student, let us talk about the scope of environmental impact assessment. So first thing, I would like to mention one very important statement. The scope of environmental impact assessment is very vast. When we see the nature and the scope of this environmental impact assessment, then you what I can say, then you definitely agree with this statement that yes, the scope of environmental impact assessment is very vast. Let us discuss the point related to the scope of environmental impact assessment. First is information about the resources. It provides the information on the environmental resources and the resources uses that could be affected by the construction, operation and reclamation of the project. Yes, dear student. So you know that without resources, it may be the natural resources or it may be the human resources. Each and every project require the various resources. But when we carried out this project, that time there should not be any side effect on the natural environment. That is very important, because natural resources, I am talking about the natural resources. It may be the soil, it may be the water, it may be the forest, it may be the animal, it may be the ecosystem, everything. These are very important resources. So that time, so when we study the environmental impact assessment, that time this point we always keep in our mind during the study. So that is very important. First thing about the information about the resources. Second is the quantify and assess the impact significance where the possible, taking into the consider the spatial, temporal and cumulative aspect. This is a very important point, dear student, because when we study the environmental impact assessment, that time we always study about the possible, what will be the impact in the future of that particular project. Then another thing is the spatial, mean place to place, and temporal. Temporal means with the maybe suppose we started this year, so what will happen after 3 year, 5 year, 10 year, and so on. So with respect to time and with respect to the spatial means place to place. It may be the part of the Maharashtra, it may be the part of India, it may be the part of the Asia continent, or it may be the part of the world. So that when we study this environmental impact assessment, that time we keep both things. So as a spatial, that the about the place and about the duration also, time also, that we take into the consider when we carried out this work. Then third very important point is study about the land use changes, present and future. That is very important. So when we do the analysis of the environmental impact assessment, that time we carried out the detailed study about the land use pattern of that particular area. What is the land use pattern is today is available, and what will be land use pattern after the project that we observe in that period. So we compare both of them, before the project and after the project. What type of the impact that we observe at that particular environment or at that particular place, that we study in this subject. And second, fourth is very important. Promote the environmentally sound and the sustainable development. That is very important, because yes, the development project is very important for human being to complete its various needs. But simultaneously, so when we started our any economic development project, that time the sustainability is very important, and that we study in this process. To study the possible effects of on surface, groundwater quality and soil and air quality, that is very important. I just mentioned that the groundwater and the soil is very important resources for the human being to sustain the life for a long period. But if we started any economic project, and if it badly affect on the environment, I'm talking about the surface water quality and the groundwater quality and the soil characteristic, maybe the pH or maybe the electric conductivity or the various the properties of the soil, and air quality is very important. Because when we carry out any project, if it polluted the environment, polluted the soil, water, air, then definitely it will be very harmful for the human development. So therefore, in this process, we always study with this regard if there is any side effect or negative effect that we observe on the surface, groundwater quality and the soil and air quality. So that is part very important during the process of the environmental impact assessment. To study the effect on the vegetation, wildlife and endangered species, that is very important. So in short, we can say that on the ecology and the ecosystem, because sir, biodiversity is very important. To protect the biodiversity and to protect the ecological balance is very important for a human being. So in this process, that is also considered during the environmental impact assess program. Next, very important, that it describes the stakeholders consultation process, where require the undertake studies and investigation to obtain the additional information for establishing a sound baseline in the study area. That is very important, because that the people, that stakeholder is very important. Where we started the project, in that particular whatever the people are settled, they are really the stakeholder of that project. So therefore, we always think about the good way and well-being of that people. That stakeholder is very important. So when we carried out this environmental impact assessment project, that time we always keep this thing in our mind, and on the basis of this this baseline, this base, we complete our environmental impact assessment. That point is also very important, dear student. Then last very important, it may be the second last, to describe the nature and significance of environmental impact and the effects and the impact associated with the development activity. That is very important, because you know that, student, when we carried out any project, it may be thermal power project, it may be nuclear power project, it may be the any construction of the dam, it may be the construction of the bridge, construction of the multi project, or maybe whatever it is, or roads or railway, whatever it is, like a metro, smart city project. During that process, this is very important. We have to keep in our mind when we prepare the project or maybe the report. That time we always keep in mind the what are the other development activity that are related to the your main project. So when we started the any construction program, the any construction project, maybe the dam or maybe the any power project, so that time the numbers of the economic or development activity are participated or related with that main project. So that time we also take care about the think about the other associated development activity with that major project. So that is also important. Then the last one, that the present plan to minimize the mitigate or the eliminate the negative effects and the impact, and discuss the key elements of such plan, identify the residual impact and the comment on their seat. That is very important. So this is a very important point. Therefore, the scope of the environmental impact assessment is very vast. So because these things are so to minimize the impact of that project development project on the society, on the nature, on the ecology, on the water or the air quality, water quality, soil quality. That is very important. Even the residential people of that particular around that live or settle in near that area, that is also important. So health of these people are very important. Health of the ecology is very important. The quality of the the quality of the ecological balance is very important. So these all things are included in the study of environmental impact assessment. Dear student, this was about today's lecture. In this lecture, we try to analyze the nature and the scope of environmental impact assessment. In next lecture, we are going to discuss the aim and objective of this environmental impact assessment. So thank you.